I was getting ready to say grand rising, but this is definitely not a grand rising ordeal. It's very much so the afternoon. I went and made a couple different videos, and I would like to publicly call out this heinous, backstabbing, sadistic, trash ass, back alley mainstream media, and also our local media. And the reason why I say that is for the simple fact that when a black person commits a crime, they immediately start going into criminality, gangs, etc. Now you got this long chin, concrete anchor chin bastard that went into the Catholic school and went to deliberately harm kids. Now, People Magazine, you got to hold this L. The LGBT community's pretty quiet too. They should be all over this. Y'all got to hold this L. Because People Magazine was talking about them as if it was two people. That's very, very manipulative, and I think that's extremely disrespectful to the children that lost their lives. I told y'all, if they haven't already got a name, an address, and where his people is from within the first 4.5 to 6 hours of that piece of shit being dead, you know that ain't no brother. Because they would immediately had that information. They would have had his parents' name. They would have started talking about Section 8. They would have been talking about Chicago. Oh, Chicago. Oh, black on black crime. Let's take a look at ancient Rome. Y'all got to claim that. Y'all got to claim that. Yeah, I got to go in on y'all. Because, see, here's the thing. The media is doing no justice by trying to minimize why this dude did what I said. Dude, I'm not respecting none of his pronouns. The hell with them. You went out of your way to make this seem as if this was several people. Now think about a child that's reading this article. Well, them, you say. This was one person. This wasn't several different people. So now what you're trying to do is you're trying to manufacture something. Initially, what they tried to say was, well, he only wanted to do this because of notoriety. You could go on Instagram and pull your drawers down and shake your wee-wee if you want notoriety. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, like, you can get notoriety anywhere. You want some clout, you could put a bunch of hash. There's a million things you could have done. And then he killed himself. Which I wanted to see his ass in Big Sandy for that. That would have been a federal crime. I want to see him in Big Sandy. And you wouldn't have been able to make it if you PC'd up or not. Because they would have had your ass on the stretcher. And they would have had your way with him. The booty bandits would have had their way with him before they tore his ass out the frame and put him in a body bag. So I felt like he got off easy. Yeah, him burning in hell, that wasn't enough for me. I think he got off easy. So the reason why you targeted those children is because you disagree with their views. Now I want to hear what the Pope got to say in the Catholic Church. They need to say something about this. I shouldn't be saying what they need to be saying right now. They need to be talking about what the issue really is. And we got a governor to help propagate this. We got a mayor and a governor that has not said what the hell this is. Well, of course, he wants to put tampons in the boys' bathroom. So, of course, he ain't going to say nothing about it. They need to put that back in the dossier as mental health. You are a psychopath. You targeted these kids because you had political views. That was one of them. And because your sexual orientation. So you didn't go against the people that you actually had an issue with. You went and wrote a manifesto to go harm some kids. And I wanted to frame this into the right perspective, because most people would say, well, he harmed a bunch of white kids. Ancient Rome. Let's go back into ancient Rome. What's the first thing you do when you want to subjugate somebody? What's the first thing you do? You want to confuse them, right? This dude was obviously confused. Nobody wants to say that. They don't want to hold this L. They don't. They don't want to hold this L. They're talking about, I mean, the first article I seen, and I knew it, and I predicted it. I said the local media and the mainstream is not going to say anything about this dude's sexual orientation. But they keep talking about, oh, he claimed trans. Well, then you got to hold that. Because see, now what y'all doing is you inflicting our kids. It's one thing that you putting all these books and all these different things and stuff like that. That's one thing you're doing. But now what you're doing is, not only are you trying to confuse our children and buck break them, and I'm so glad that I did that video on Snoop. I'm so damn glad. At first I was like, I'm so damn glad because you know what? This ties into that too. Where's those folks that was getting on Snoop? That same energy. Now what they're going to try to say, oh, he was troubled. Oh, this is an attack on the lettuce, bacon, and tomato mafia and all that. That's what they're going to try to say. I was at work and they was talking about, you know, I want to talk about that a little bit, but I was at work. And they wanted to talk about how the football players, the football players are this, the football players are that. And what's the one nigga name that was in Creed at one point? Oh, he was convicted of domestic assault because he's running from the white girl. They didn't say nothing about it. It had no smoke. Nothing. They just said, oh, the school shooting or whatever. But they got the information. They know who it was. They know what the dude was claiming. All right. Well, since he's claiming y'all, then y'all got to accept the smoke. LGBT got to accept that. Y'all got to accept that smoke. And there's several other people that did school shootings. You don't see no black folks doing that. See, the white community doesn't, what they don't want to do is they don't want to condemn, because look, there's a direct link to that. There's a direct link to that. White supremacist school shootings. And if you read these folks' manifestos, they figure, well, oh, just because they don't like Trump, they can't be no race soldiers. Oh, he's a woke liberal race soldier. You see how I do that? I don't make a distinguishing race soldier. Well, you know, he shot a whole bunch of white kids, so he can't be no white supremacist. Shit. If we ain't around, they will eat each other. I don't want to hear that. No. They just won't say it. The local media in the mainstream, they won't say what it is. They won't say LGBT shooter. They're still giving him his flowers. Oh, they, them, and he doesn't have any criminal record or whatever. No, y'all gotta hold that. Because if it was me, you would have went into any dealings I had with the police. You would have dug up my mother and my father's bones. They've been dead for years now. You would have dug that up. You would have asked how many kids my father had. You would have done all of these things. And we're supposed to get taken as just a mental health patient. No. The title should be LGBT shooter. Let's put cowardly first. Cowardly LGBT shooter unalives 2 children with the intention of doing more. That's what the narrative that I'm going to paint. Just because that's what happened. LGBT shooter. You shot those kids because you were LGBT. So this is an attack on straight people. That's a hate crime. LGBT shooter attacks Catholic children because of his sexual orientation and his views. There, I fixed it. That's the narrative we should frame it. When somebody says, oh, the school shooter. No. LGBT shooter shot these children because he was mad at the Catholic Church's views. You went to the Catholic Church, you wrote a manifesto. Every time the mainstream gets a hold of it, they want to start making excuses. So now, What I'm going to start doing is when a black person does a crime, I'm going to say foundational black American with PTSD. We got to put that in there because we got to start making excuses, right? We can't take no accountability. So now, since that's the new standard, foundational black, or wherever your people's from, if it's Jamaican or wherever it's from, with PTSD, because he suffered from PTSD, he suffered from white supremacy, PTSD, shoots up Jerome for owing him $5 for a pair of J's he didn't pay for. Whatever it is. That's how we're going to do this now. Because see, y'all want to select the justice. You want to pick and choose, and you want to leave stuff out, and you want to put they and them, and you're like, okay, wait a minute. Now you're putting, and the parents, now I know they're hurting. The parents need to call that out at some point and say, wait a minute. This ain't just some lost kid. This kid right here was the LGBT shooter, and People magazine said it was more than one person. Because they means more than one. So who else was there? Because you're saying it was the gunman's dead, but you're saying it was more than one. So they ought to sue People magazine for that. Because you're lying. That's fabrication. It was not they. It was one. And his long chin, he had the long, you know who's that dude in Spider-Man? He had the long, big, thick concrete anvil chin. He had that adamantium steel chin. It looked like if he fell on his face, his chin wouldn't break. He had a big, long-ass chin, talking about she. That nigga's chin looked like if a rhino kicked him, he would just be just all right. Like he could take a cassowary or ostrich kick to the chin. I mean, that chin was strong. The force was strong, Master Yoda. The chin was strong. I ain't seen a chin like that in a while. That was the Green Goblin. That nigga had the Green Goblin chin. He looked like if you could just do a somersault for 500 feet and land on your chin just wouldn't break. His chin was strong. And you trying to tell me that was they? No. We not gonna do that. Nope. Folks, we gotta take a stand. We gotta take a stand. We gotta start taking a stand, and we gotta start speaking out against this type of shit. We got to say, hey, look, you know what? That's not cool. You cannot go and shoot up a bunch of people because your sexual orientation. And then you kill yourself. You unalive yourself. You unalive yourself in the midst of just saying, well, I don't want to go to the penitentiary. No. But now I'm really starting to think it's even something bigger, man. Because, like I say, I'm about to find out who his parents are. And we're going to have to ask some questions. We're going to have to ask some serious questions, y'all.